Okay, guys. Are we back? Are we ready to go? Are we streaming? Okay, guys. Are we? Yeah, we are. Okay, let's cool. Let's go. So yeah, like we said, guys, we're back with another live stream, Flawless Finance with the CEO. I guess this is episode 2, if you will. Day after the Euro 2024 final. Shame about England. We're definitely going to get into that at some point in this stream. We're going to first of all start off with something that was actually on my mind not too long ago, and it was about John Stones being England's at this point our premier centre defender. I was really thinking, having a conversation with one of my mates. I'm thinking John Stones might be a generational English defender, and hear me out when I say that. In terms of John Stones as a career, of course, his resume is unrivaled. He's won so many trophies, Premier League after Premier League, FA Cups, League Cups, of course, one Champions League with Man City as well. But he's been a constant in the England side for years now. Once he came in, he hasn't really been out of the England squad, even when he wasn't always starting for Man City. And I guess that's also something for us to consider as well. Even though he's one of England's more premier centre defenders, he's never really felt like he's been that number one main centre back for Man City. Whether he's been alongside Ruben Dias or Laporte or even Company before him, it always felt like Stones was a complement to one of those players, and he's not the main centre back, if you know what I mean. But of course, to be able to be at this level for this long, he's a very talented player, and I think he must have been in the England squad for a good 7 years by this point. Surely a good 7 years. Of course, he's been a part of the England squad in all of the tournaments, I believe, that since 2018. As far as I know, he was in the 18 World Cup. She was in the 2020 Euros. Yeah, and he's been in this Euros as well and the World Cup. Yeah, I'm sure he's been in every tournament, which speaks to his quality. Because I'm thinking, before him, who was really our centre backs? That were playing like that. Who was it? Gary Cahill, a good defender on his day, to be fair. But John Stones is a far better player. And before John Stones, we're going back to the Rio Ferdinands and John Terrys in terms of England generational defenders. If we're being honest. We've got this article here, defines Man City's build-up. It's an old one, to be fair. But, we see him in his key positions in this article. And he's just able to always receive the ball, always dictate play. And even this past season, we've seen him jump, kind of walk into that midfield role and at times accompany Rodri in deep midfield and act as another body there. Because he's more than capable on the ball. Not even in terms of being good on the ball as a defender. He's good on the ball in general, and we've seen it. We've seen it for Man City. I would be really curious to know what you guys think of John Stones. Do you think he's a generational England defender? Because I'm thinking, if he's the best England defender we've had since Rio and Terry retired, they probably retired from international football over 10 years ago. So if he's the best centre back we've had in 10 years, doesn't that kind of make him generational? I don't think he's a generational world talent because, like I said, of course he's been at Man City and he's accomplished a lot, but he's never been that main defender. I'm talking more for England as a national team. So I would be like I said, really, really keen to see what you guys' thoughts on that. Yeah, will be interesting. But let me know, guys. Drop a comment below or whatever you want to do. And now we've got another article here. Labour can end austerity at a stroke by taxing the rich and taxing them hard. Now this is interesting. This is something that a lot of people have been calling for, if we're being honest. A lot of people have been calling for this, but I think the question is to ask, why are they calling for this? I think it's because we've seen an absolute collapse of the middle class, in addition to, huge inequalities. Inequality growing at a astounding rate. So we've got no middle class and huge inequality. These people that are arguing this are saying, surely the only way for us to get some remnants of a middle class back, or some potential stability or equality. We need to take something back from the rich and give it to the poor. But the problem with tax is that they only can tax money that's been made. They can only tax cash. And what makes upper class and the owning class is that they own assets. You know, the person, millionaires aren't millionaires because they have a million in cash in their bank account. I'm sure plenty do, but they're millionaires because they own a business that is worth multi-million pounds. They own properties that own multi-million pounds. You can't. How can you tax 20% of a property? You can't. You can tax 20% of the income generated from the property, or 30%, or 40%, or 50%, whatever. But you can't charge. You can't. Government can't take 20% of the property that has been owned. And the issue we're seeing in all of these political parties, Labour and Conservative, you'll see it in both. Labour may increase taxes a bit, but that's not going to solve the issue. And when I say raise taxes a bit, it's only going to be a bit, because it's not going to raise taxes by a huge amount, because the Labour aren't forgetting where the donors come from. Same thing with Conservatives, that they were hesitant to raise taxes because they know where their bread is buttered. These are guys who their donors are billionaires, are multi-millionaires, billionaires. They don't want higher taxes. They want lower taxes. Of course they do. They want to keep more of their money. So it'd be interesting to see what Labour can do with this. It's certainly interesting, because austerity inflicted by the Conservatives, like it says in the article, it's really just decimated the middle class. Ultimately decimated the working class also. Let's be honest, because the working class is absolutely on its knees at the moment in the UK. And what the country needs is growth. So, conservatives and right-wing media, they can try and demonise the notion of tax and spend, and Labour will just spend money. Austerity has absolutely drained this country dry. And that's why we're in the position of where we need to spend so much money, because we haven't seen the growth we've needed for this past decade. We haven't seen that growth. We haven't seen that investment. We haven't seen that return on investment also. I think that's really something that, to be honest, arguments on both sides really seem to miss the return on investment part of the public investment. They speak about public investment almost as if it's a burden on them. That, like, this is a burden I will bear. No, public investment is investment nonetheless. You expect to receive a return on investment. A better NHS means more jobs. It means a healthier workforce and a healthier country, which on long terms mean a country full of people that are able to further contribute. Same thing with schools. More schools, better schools, means a more educated potential workforce, which means they can push innovation, push technology, push limits, get high-paying jobs, create opportunities for other people, start businesses, and then create those opportunities for other people. And in return, like I said, a more educated workforce, a more skilled workforce, a more prepared workforce. And like we said, same thing, local authorities, invest in local authorities. Get them to involve themselves in community projects, employ more people, pay those people more money, etc., etc. Social housing, create these, social housing will create, of course, the opportunity for the construction industry, because you're seeing big sites being built. That provides more opportunity for them. Very important. Social housing, of course, providing affordable housing for people, and housing that is truly affordable. Not, it's 500 grand for a 2-bed flat, but to the market it's affordable. No, affordable means you see the average wage and you base the house prices off that. You don't base house markets off the. If you're private, of course, you base your house markets off the market, of course. But if you're a government whose aim isn't to make as much money as possible, but his aim is to house its citizens and give them stable, affordable, housing that they can put down their roots and not have to worry about necessarily having a mortgage, That's also a part of the public investment, the return on investment. Um, but yeah, we've seen it. You know, it's bad in London. I'm from London. I live in London. It's bad in London, of course it is. But I can only imagine what it's like in other parts of this country. You know, up north and Midlands, I can imagine those places have really felt the impact from austerity that's been inflicted on us by the Conservatives. But towards the end of the Conservative run, they had this whole levelling up project. Whatever happened to that, you know, we'll probably never know. To be honest, you know, that was a joke. You know, the money, I don't know where the money was spent. I'm not sure what they spent it on, but it clearly didn't work. Clearly, I think that goes without saying. But hey, we'll see what the Labour want to do with the taxes, because there's opportunity there. There is an opportunity there, but it's as if they can really, you know, take advantage of that opportunity, because Labour, just like the Conservatives, they have billionaire donors too. They're bought and paid for. Maybe not as much as the Conservatives, but let's not forget they are bought and paid for as well. So let's see what happens with them. Okay, and what we've got here, we've got. Oh, we can't watch it. We can't go on to that. It's a shame. But Rachel Reeves is looking to, you know, spend £7.3 billion to boost the economy, for green steel and carbon capture. So an investment into green energy and green industry. Now, this is interesting to me because £7 billion, it's not. It is a lot of money, of course. It's a lot of money, but in terms of the UK, that's not a gigantic amount of money. They're using it to invest into high risk projects, high risk green energy. Okay, high risk green projects. Interesting. Okay, well, we'll see what they can do with that. I think, you know, £7 billion, you could build a lot of houses with that, and I think that's probably our more pressing issue. Um, I think housing is the number one issue that our generation and our electorate will be facing. I think green energy is a nice thing to consider, of course. Long-term green energy investments, I think, are key to any long-term sustainable energy source. But that being said, that shouldn't come at the cost of the electorate, of the working people. There shouldn't be additional taxes to that. We should have our own energy, industry that is self-sustaining, that is self-improving and always innovating, and sees green energy as the next big opportunity. And they have done their research into it, and they know better than any government official will know. But they know what exactly the investment needs to go into and how they can improve the industry. I think it's certainly interesting, but like I said, I think £7 billion, you could build a lot of houses with that. I think that goes without saying. You can build a lot of houses with that. But I suppose you have to diversify. I guess Rachel Reeves is going to be the new Chancellor, and I'm sure the housing crisis is no mystery to her. She'll be fully aware of the situation and the needs. But just like the previous government, is can they commit to building the houses? Can they commit to it? And like I always say, we'll see. But previous governments have promised a lot and have failed. Previous governments have set lofty targets and missed them every single chance they've had. So I'm not holding my breath, but hopefully this is just one section of a further investment plan. Because, like I say, $7 billion on its own isn't terrible. That does interest me. I do like the idea of these high risk projects, but at the same time, like I said, build a lot of houses with that. Let's change speeds a bit. Let's look at basketball player Paul George, who recently signed for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, is Paul George delusional? That's the question we want to ask each other. Is Paul George delusional? I am inclined to say yes. To be honest, I am inclined to say yes. Paul George is a player who self-admittedly said he can no longer be the number one option on a championship winning team. So, in my opinion, Paul George, who is a 34-year-old, 9-time All-Star, has pretty much just admitted to himself and to the public that he is not a superstar. He's just admitted that, basically. He's admitted he's not a superstar and that he's a second option. And to be honest, at the Clippers last season, he was pretty much a third option at times, because it was Kawhi, if everyone's fit, it's Kawhi, James Harden, then Paul George, is what it was looking like. So he's the third option who was apparently trying to negotiate the same amount as Kawhi, who's the first option. I can't say I blame the Clippers for not wanting to extend the deal. Because, Paul George is not worth what he was asking for. What was he asking for initially? Was it 3 years, 150 million? He's not worth 50 million. In my opinion, maybe I'm old school, but 50 million for me is for a guy who can damn near guarantee you a ring. You don't spend 50 million for a second or third option. That's insane. To me. To be honest, that is insane. And he's signed for the Philadelphia 76ers. Likelihood is he'll be a third option there as well. If everyone's fit, you'll have MVP center Joel Embiid and another all-star in Tyrese Maxey, who's been at the 76ers, for a while and knows their systems, knows their teams, knows their plays. He'll probably be the second option. And then Paul George, who's just come in, he'll be the third option. But I think, really, Oklahoma City have absolutely fleeced the Clippers for this. The Clippers gave the Thunder so much, and the Clippers have won absolutely nothing with it. They've given up so many picks. They've given up, years of their future for Paul George, and they've won nothing. Which is for me why I say no player is bigger than the team. Paul George had a no trade clause, which, giving a player like Paul George a no trade clause is ridiculous, because Paul George, a guy who's never won an MVP, while he was at OKC and the Clippers, was nowhere near winning an MVP. It's not like he was a fringe player. It's not like giving a Joel Embiid a no trade clause. He's an MVP and has been on the cusp of being an MVP many times. Paul George has never really been at that level. I know early on in his career, when he was dominating at Indiana, we thought, okay, if this guy can, keep progressing, he could potentially get there. He could potentially get there, and he did progress, and he's shown glimpses, or more than glimpses. He's a good player. He's one of the better players in the league, no doubt. But there's a difference between being that $50 million player a year, $50 million a year player, and being a great second option, a great third option for a team that aims to win a championship. And I think that's what the Clippers wanted to do, but injuries ruined them, man. And we'll talk about Kawhi another time. But Kawhi's the number one option on that team, and he's been injured, and he's out of the Team USA. But like I said, we'll talk about that another time. Like I said, I'd be super interested to know what you guys think about Paul George, about his career, about where he's landed at the Philadelphia 76ers. If he's, a bit delusional, there's a part of me that definitely understands that as a player you need to negotiate the best deal you can for yourself. 100% understand that. There's definitely a part of that. But when that happens, you need to know when not to push it. I think he pushed it, and that's why he's at Philadelphia now. And I'm not saying Philadelphia that's necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, they've got an MVP center and an all-star guard. He's going to a great team. He's not going to a team like Detroit, who's in a rebuild, and he's going to be asked to carry them to a championship, because Paul George's not got that in him. He couldn't do it at Indiana. Not many players can do that, especially the way the NBA is now at the moment. You're not going to be able to often get one player to carry you to a championship. You saw it this past season with the Celtics, You had Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, a number of guys. There wasn't just one guy carrying the team. At any moment, the Celtics could look to any of these guys to get them a bucket, to make a stop, to put in 110% on defense. But it's very interesting because I would be very interested to know what will be Paul George's legacy as well. A guy who, overpromised and underdelivered, or a guy who was a great businessman who, secured the bag for himself. That's the same. People could also see it that way. But that being said, guys, we've covered a few topics. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll be back again, I'm sure, hopefully later this week. Maybe Thursday morning. We'll see. But if not, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the stream. But yeah, let's keep doing the streams. I'm going to keep doing these streams. Like I said, I'm gonna keep doing them. I'm gonna, as much as I can, try and get you guys involved. If you guys want to go in the chat, I'm gonna keep the clips going. You guys seem to enjoy those. But yeah, all right, guys, take care, and I'll catch you next time. I'm out. Peace.